the title of it is Empowering Growth Through Workforce Partnerships. My name is Cameron Cook, and I'm the founder and principal consultant for Coast Forward, LLC. A little bit about the agenda today. What we're going to do is just talk real briefly about the purpose of this presentation. I'll introduce myself in a little bit more detail, talk about some hiring challenges, some workforce development solutions, how you can get started in the process, and then open it up for questions and answers. Okay, so quick purpose, understand how public workforce programs can offset hiring and training costs, learn which incentives and funding streams apply to your business, and discover how to partner with Coast Forward and CSUF's Center for Entrepreneurship Network to grow your team efficiently. And what it is these workforce programs are government subsidized employees, basically. Okay, a little bit about myself. I have about 15 years in higher education. I've worked in the veteran space, adult learners. I've done career readiness, a lot of workforce development. So I have a pretty broad and dynamic background. What I've done is I've helped people connect careers through higher education, workforce program, and public funding. Okay, a little bit about Coast Forward. I just started it a couple months ago. It's a workforce consulting firm. We're based in Southern California, predominantly do work in Orange County and Los Angeles County. So what we do is we help startups and small businesses access those subsidized hiring programs that I was talking about. We bridge employers, educators, and workforce boards to help create sustainable pipelines. And just a real quick disclaimer that I always share. I'm an independent consultant. I do not represent workforce boards. I do not provide funding. I do not do any acceptance I don't accept applications or anything like that. What I do is I work with companies, and I'm a liaison with the workforce boards. I have experience. I worked at Long Beach City College as a workforce manager. I was a workforce consultant in Houston for about 18 months previously. So I've done this quite a bit in the past. And one thing I learned is there's a gap between the workforce programs and the employers. A lot of employers don't know about the workforce programs, and the workforce programs, the representatives, they're so bogged down managing the grants and the funding that a lot of times they have a hard time doing outreach. So what I'm here to do is, and what Coast Forward does is connect those two things. So the problem is many businesses struggle to hire, train, and retain employees because of, obviously, they cost money, right? But salary, benefits, the recruiting process, and budgets are limited, and bandwidth, obviously, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy to focus on hiring. So especially our small businesses, our startups. So that's really, that's the crux of the problem. Like I said, everybody could use more hands, but there's the financial barriers and the bandwidth barriers that make it difficult. So the solution to that is these challenges are exactly where public workforce programs and Coast Forward can help fill the gap. And that's why we're here today. So alphabet soup. So a little bit about the workforce program. To be honest, each one of these programs could be a presentation on its own. So I'm just going to give a broad overview of each one of them. And then if you have questions or you want to learn more, we can wait till the end, and then we can maybe even make an appointment to talk offline. Okay, so alphabet soup, like I said, the main programs that I work with and that I promote and that I'm knowledgeable about is Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is WIOA. That's kind of the umbrella funding from the Department of Labor that is distributed to the states and then local workforce boards. There's also work experience, which is called WEX, and those are short-term, fully subsidized internships. So basically, you apply through the workforce boards, and you can get a part-time employee for free at no cost to your company. There's also on-the-job training, which is wage reimbursement during new hire training. There's registered apprenticeships. We've all heard about registered apprenticeships, but the thing about registered apprenticeships is a lot of people think of welders and electricians and plumbers. Well, any company can have a registered apprenticeship. I worked with one of my colleagues previously set one up with, I can't remember if it was Hyatt or Marriott, but they set up a hospitality apprenticeship program, formalized training program. And it was a hospitality management apprenticeship program. So it can be any company. That's the point. There's also the employment training panel. We won't talk too much about that today. I know a little bit about it, and I can help if you're interested, but it's mostly going to be talking about the first three. And then there's also tax credits. A lot of companies don't know that if you hire certain candidates that meet specific populations, you can get pretty significant tax credits for your company for that. So who has heard of WIOA? What is it and what does it do? That's really kind of the umbrella term. You can either leave a comment or you can give me a thumbs up. So WIOA, the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, that's really kind of the overarching program that we'll talk about. And really, I mean, this is pretty dense. This slide's pretty dense, but really it's just a federal law that helps employers cut hiring and training costs through partnerships with education and local workforce boards. And it's really the funding umbrella that a lot of these programs fall under. Let's see. So, it provides funded training, wage support, business growth, talent access, and cost reduction for companies. Okay, a little bit about work experience, WEX. It's under WIOA Title I, and it's designed to give participants hands-on experience. So it's really focused on, there's two focuses of it. It's getting employers, small businesses, startups help, but it's also assist job seekers who have a hard time finding positions. It helps them connect to companies. So that's kind of the twofold approach. These are paid internships up to 160 hours, but they can be renewed. Wage reimbursements, basically the workforce boards reimburse 100% of the wages for these internships. So they're paid internships at no cost to the company. And really it's focused on skill development, hands-on learning, and hiring pipelines. That's really what this slide says. Next is on-the-job training, OJT. We've all heard of it, but there's informal and formal. This is more of a formalized on-the-job training program. So with OJT, there's also wage reimbursement. It's a more formalized training program than the internship. The internship is more kind of hands-on learning. OJT is obviously a formalized training program, and it's all about skill development because we all know that the skills pay the bills, as we all have heard. So really, it's really about building those skills that the employers need and that the job seekers also need to be competitive in the job market. It's also, there's custom agreements with it. And like I said, it's reduced labor costs. And with OJT, the workforce boards will reimburse up to 50% of the cost to hire. So the salary, the hourly wage. And then there's registered apprenticeships. Like I said, it's not just skilled trades. It can be any kind of training, any kind of formalized training for, it could be business, it could be technology, it can be hospitality, like I said. So registered apprenticeships are earn and learn, basically. They can be 1 to 4 years to earn preferably industry credentials. But if there's no industry credentials, there has to be learning outcomes, established learning outcomes established with it. It's a very structured training. So basically think of it as the internships are a little bit more informal. OJT is a little bit more formalized training. There's got to be structured training. Registered apprenticeships are very structured training. It's also about talent retention. So really with the registered apprenticeships, what you're looking at is long-term reduced labor costs. So it's more of a long-term commitment. It's about retention, and it can be also supported through ETP, like we talked about, and the WIOA funds. And also one thing I like to always mention, being a vet myself, is veterans can utilize their GI Bill for both apprenticeships and OJT. So It's a great way. These formalized training programs are also a great way to recruit our nation's veterans. And this is coming up on Veterans Day. Okay, so ETP, it's a state reimbursement for training. It's all about employee upskilling. So ETP is more about the employees you have. If you want to say, this is more of a skilled trade, but say if it's a machinist one and you want to upskill your workforce to or some of your staff to machinist two, you can register on the employment training panel with the state, and you can get state funding to create that training program to upskill your current employees. It's all job related training. It's about increasing retention and productivity, and it's also about growing the workforce. Okay, last but not least is our work opportunity tax credit, workforce opportunity tax credits. These are severely underutilized. A lot of people don't know about these, a lot of these programs, but especially workforce opportunity tax credits. WOTC is what they're called in the industry. Basically, they're federal tax incentives for employers who hire individuals from targeted groups facing employment barriers. So vets, one of them, maybe long-term unemployed, disability, youth. There's some that you can get tax credits for hiring young workers entering the workforce. Pretty significant tax credits up to I think if it's a displaced worker, you can get 2,400, and then up to 9,600 for hiring a veteran or a long-term unemployed, or there's another population, but I can share that more offline if you're interested. Let's see, it's also targeted groups, and it's a hiring incentive. So basically, what the government tries to do is provide these tax credits to assist companies with hiring these special needs populations. Okay, so let's see. So program administration. So the thing about these programs, they're great. They're comprehensive. First of all, there's not a lot of people know about them, but they can be administratively, they can be a heavy lift, to be honest. Each program is unique, is very unique as far as eligibility, who's eligible for the programs, what companies are eligible, documentation. Each has different documentation processes, application processes. The employer criteria, like you have to have meet certain criteria to be eligible. There's time limits, how long you can have. Like I said, I think OJT is up to 18 months, but apprenticeships up to 48 months, and then local oversight. They're all of these programs are run through the workforce boards. So there's a lot of communication, collaboration, and that takes time, that takes bandwidth. So a little bit about the state workforce boards. It provides oversight of all of these WIOA funds, of the ETP, and of the WOTC, of the Workforce Opportunity Tax Credit. Their local boards, I think there's 44 in the state of 45 in the state of California. There's one in each county, and then they distribute the funding. So they can provide direct funding to the employers. They also fund nonprofits who help with training and hiring and stuff like that. Let's see, they're community leadership. So they're they're part of the workforce boards. It's higher education, it's business owners, it's government representatives. So I think there's 10 or 12 members on these workforce boards, and then they have a staff of administrators who oversee, develop, implement the programs. And then one thing that they also do is work on employer alignment. But like I said, the workforce boards are very comprehensive, and they're very dynamic. They do a lot of different things. So sometimes they're challenged with reaching out and contacting the companies and really engaging the companies in the community. So I saw that gap, and that's kind of why I'm here. And like I said, mission is to align employer needs with job seekers training to strengthen regional economies. Okay, so key takeaways right here. Slide 23, broad eligibility. Like I said, each one has a different kind of eligibility. What they really recommend is you start with WEX, the internships, kind of get that relationship built, a little bit of a formalized training program. I don't want to say prove yourself, but establish that a committed partnership with the workforce boards. And then as the internship program develops and matures, you can kind of phase into the internship, and then after the internship, maybe even registered apprenticeships. Like I said, they're not OJT and apprenticeships are not limited to trades. Any business with structured, documented training can participate. Veterans, like I said, can also use approved programs. WEX placements can help small businesses test fit future hires with no payroll risk, and that's one thing that I've worked with a couple companies for. It's almost like a lot of companies utilize placement agencies, but they have to pay the placement agencies for temps. This is government subsidized temps, where you can give somebody a shot before you decide to hire them. So it can be a 8-12 week job interview. That's what I tell my former students. An internship's a long-term job interview. So that's a big part of it. And tax credits can also be combined with WIO programs, allowing employers to benefit from both wage reimbursements and tax credits. So these programs can be stacked and utilized. Also, the ETP training funds can support upskilling existing employees, not just new hires, if training improves job performance. Each program can be stacked strategically, creating layered benefits that reduce cost and strengthen your workforce development and your talent pool. And what we do at Coast Forward is help integrate these programs into your hiring plan so you can focus on growth, not paperwork. As small business owners, as startups, you have so much going on that we want you to be able to focus on your business, and you don't have time to work with the government bureaucracy and go back and forth with the workforce boards. That's where we come in. Speaking of that, so really our mission at Coast Forward, or my mission at Coast Forward, is to raise awareness of these workforce programs, because like I said, so many companies and businesses don't know about them. I can help with application support. So if you want to apply, you think it's interesting, I can help you with the application. I can collaborate. I can be the liaison between your company and the local workforce boards. I can coordinate with the coordination. So if they have, with the agencies, so I coordinate with the agencies. So if they have questions or they need additional paperwork, they can contact me, and I can either handle that task right there, or I can consult with you and then handle with them. Custom training plans. I've done that a lot in the past. I've done on-the-job training plans. I was in OJT. I did an OJT program. I've developed and built and organized OJT programs and apprenticeship programs. And then I can also track the funding. So once you receive the funding, there are things like you have to track the hours, you have to do evaluations and assessments of the employees. I can do all that as well. So I can just help with the application process. Coast Forward can help with your application process, and then you kind of do the maintenance and the administration on your own, or I can help with the application process and then help you with administering the grants as well, or the funding as well. Like I said, I always like to be clear what Coast Forward's role is not. Like I said, I'm very adamant about this. I do not represent. Coast Forward does not represent workforce agencies. We do not provide direct funding. We do not determine eligibility for benefits, and we do not replace HR. And we are not a staffing or recruiting agency. One thing I forgot to mention, I'll probably add a slide later, is we can also, if you have somebody you're interested in, participating in the internship program, we also work with job seekers. So if you're looking for, we can also connect the job seekers to the workforce boards as well. So if you're looking for something in particular, some population, some skill set, we can do that on the job seeker side as well. So we are not a recruiting agency, but we can definitely connect job seekers to these workforce benefits. That's the other side of what Coast Forward does. Okay, a little case study. Where are we at here on time? So we're doing pretty good on time, actually. So case study, startup tech company, growing pretty rapidly, creating hiring pressure, but limited capital for onboarding and training a new staff. We connected the company with the local workforce board to access WEX and OJT benefits. 2 interns were placed through a WEX partnership and 1 full-time technician under OJT with a 50% wage reimbursement for training. Saved the company $12,000 in payroll over 90 days. And Coast Forward simplified the compliance process, coordinated agency communication, and helped the startup reinvest savings into product development and marketing. So that's just a little sample of what we can do. So that's really ideally, that's where we can help with the whole process instead, or we can just help with the application. So one thing, talk about grants and stuff like that. I'm sure a common question, or some people out there might be thinking, hey, how is this affected by the government shutdown? The workforce boards are all local. They're all still in. I've asked them about it quite a bit. And WIOA is federally funded. It is definitely federally funded through annual appropriations by Congress under the Department of Labor. So it's distributed to the states in 4-year cycles. So we're currently in the middle of a 4-year cycle, thank goodness, 2023 to 2027. So the funds are allocated to the workforce boards. During past government shutdowns, existing WIOA funds already obligated to states continued operating. Recent federal budgets maintain WIOA funding levels, though proposed cuts were discussed, but that has not happened. I think the initial budget went up. They were going to do some pretty significant cuts to WIOA. It got sent back and then it came back. They didn't increase funding, which is seen as a funding loss, but they didn't cut it either. So, and then local programs usually have carryover funds for short-term stability amid federal delays as well. Another thing, that's one thing I forgot to mention. It is a process. It is a process, especially getting started the first time a company connects with the workforce boards. It can be 6, 8, 10 weeks sometimes to get the application through, back and forth with the paperwork. That's where we come in, so you don't have to worry about it. That's where Coast Forward comes in. So that's just something to keep in mind. Just like that's a drawback, I'll be honest. Just like with any government funding, there's a little bit of delay in the beginning, but once you're up and running and you have the systems built and you have a structured and organized training plan and tracking the hours and performance, then it becomes much smoother to collaborate with the workforce boards. But there is a little bit of a learning curve, a little bit of a time curve in the beginning. All right, so that was much quicker than I thought, but a summary. So federal funding can support employer hiring and training programs. It reduces hiring costs and training expenses, strengthens local economies through job growth. Each program has distinct eligibility and process requirements. Local boards manage and oversee allocations. Multi-year funding cycles ensure consistent program support. And what Coast Forward does is acts like an agent or a liaison to connect businesses to workforce resources. So next step. So really, we'll do a little QA here at the end. But if you want to know more, if you're interested, we can set up a free consultation, 1 hour, and we can talk about what your hiring needs are, which workforce programs align with your workforce your business size, your industry, your staffing needs. We can identify key positions that could benefit from subsidized training or hiring incentives. And we can serve as a liaison and communication coordination with the local workforce board, so you don't have to worry about it. We will take the bureaucracy and the bandwidth and leave you to run your company. And we can also, like I said, assist with implementation to access funding, training, resources, and new talent. So that's pretty much the broad overview of workforce development funding and programming. Now I figured there'd be some questions at the end. So does anybody have any questions for me? I do.
I've got a question. Where are we in that 4-year cycle for the federal distribution?
We're right in the middle, right in the middle. So I've been assured that everything's going to be sustained, workforce and apprenticeships especially, and WIOA. So we're right in the middle of that right now.
Gotcha. I'm looking to kind of follow, this early stage companies having some, capital issues and several of them looking for technical hires right off the bat, CTOs being a big one. And they're not exactly small dollar amounts, although, they're small teams. So
Right.
I'm kind of curious on how these types of workforce development funds apply and kind of the interesting stories that come out of that challenge that they have and your role as an entrepreneur support organization.
Yes, that's a great question. So these are the workforce funding is more focused on your entry level type of positions. I don't think that I think that the CTO or the executive level, even management level, I think that it is a little bit above what the purpose of these programs. However, what these type of programs could do if it's at a technical company and they need an analyst, but they can't afford to shell out 50, 60 grand for an analyst, they can create a analyst you know analyst specialist position or an entry level analyst position, and then
It,
hire like that.
can this kind of money be used to create let's say a separate organization that trains consultants in just that so that they're part-time hires but they're specialists in this analyst role and that they would be you know it seems like kind of temp hires or the work experience hire is kind of a temporary idea to see whether or not it's a good fit like you mentioned. Can these funds be used in that regard?
That is a great question, and I will definitely look into that. My expert opinion, though, I think is it's more for companies to have butts in the seats help. You know what I mean? Where they have consistent on. I did check; they can be virtual, but it has to be very locked on. But they really want, people in the company, in the building, brick and
Mm,
mortar, to really provide that extra set of hands that these small companies need, while the employees are learning the skills of the trade and getting some of that work experience that's so valuable.
I got you.
But
W-2
I'll
employee.
look because that's a great idea. I mean, that's a really good idea. I'll ask about that.
Sure. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. It's a great
I think
question.
Autumn has a couple of questions. Autumn, do you want to unmute yourself so you could ask them?
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. Hi. My
Hello.
questions were the first one, are the businesses required to be structured a particular way, as in LLC, corporation? That's my first question.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It just has to be it can be an LLC, it can be as long as it's an established business. Like you have to have an EIN and all that kind of stuff. So it has to
Oh,
be an actual formal business. It can't just be like a sole proprietorship, just somebody kind of working on
okay.
their own.
Okay. And then in regard to the business itself, what are the minimal or rather minimum eligibility requirements again for the business itself, other
There's
than
several, and that's kind of something that we could talk about offline. It depends on what, because that gets into a very lengthy, like in-depth
Mhm.
conversation because with each one of the programs has different requirements. But I can
Mhm.
tell you some of the common ones across the board is these
Okay.
programs can't be used to replace employees. So you can't
Mhm.
have a paid employee on staff and then
Right.
lay them off and then
Mhm.
bring in somebody subsidized or rehire them under subsidized funding. So you can't do that. There's safety is a big one. They do work site inspections. So they
Mhm.
definitely ensure that it's a safe work environment. That's part of it. That's part of what we would help set up. And
Okay.
then the other ones, those are the two ones that are across the board. And then the
Okay.
others, they're actually pretty um those are really for the WEX, for the internships, those are really the basic requirements they're pretty flexible with it. It has to be
Okay.
established. It has to be safe. You can't replace employees. And then as you think of it kind of like a hierarchy, that's kind of the
Mhm.
basic workforce funding. Then the more advanced is OJT. You have to have some sort of, you have to show that you have at least some sort of formalized training. And then
Okay.
with OJT, it has to be like a very structured, okay, in 6 months, they get this kind of, this kind of marker, this kind of certification, this kind of learning objectives, and then every 6 months after that. So it really kind of focuses on the training besides that.
Okay, great. And I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am, of course. Of course.
Let's say the industry is food and beverage,
Yes, ma'am.
and you're leasing a space, a brick and mortar.
Yes, ma'am.
In other words, are you required? Is there a requirement for you to own the real estate?
No,
That
ma'am.
okay.
I mean, as long as it's safe, if they come in and, there's fire hazards and stuff like that. But I
Mhm.
mean, and I think hospitality is a great opportunity. Honestly, there's so many different directions you can go with it. There's a
Mhm.
lot of the formalized training you can do with it. So, and food and beverage too. So hospitality and food and beverage are both really culinary, all that kind of stuff. I mean, what the whole purpose is the basic foundation is for when they come on, no skills, to have marketable skills at the end of the workforce program, whatever program that is.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Great questions. I appreciate that.
So here's a question for you, Cameron. If you have let's say an LLC in Texas and you wanted to open up some sort of part of the business in California, would you be eligible for these programs, or do you have to be headquartered in California?
Let me think of that one through. The business has to be registered in California.
Gotcha.
So that it has to be because they're state funds. But there are every state has WIOA funds. Every state has the Workforce Opportunity Tax Credit funds, which a lot of people overlook those, but those are big benefits, especially to a small business. So they have these funds in Texas as well. I'd love to go regional and national eventually. That's where when I was in Houston, I told you I was working in Houston. This is what I did in Houston.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is something that's really interesting because, in classes, we always say that the people are your biggest asset in a business. And it's something like this that could help you kind of, you could leverage these funds to help really improve those
Exactly.
assets, right?
And that's 100% honest, the exact purpose of them. That is another thing. There are small business requirements to some of them. I'll have to, we can meet offline about that. But, I don't like one of the big corporations, I don't think they can do the WEX funding for internships because they can provide, they have all of so it's more for kind of small businesses, upstarts to get those extra hands. That's exactly the point of it.
Right. So if large businesses can't take advantage of these programs, probably a university would not be able to either, right?
No, I don't think so, but there's other opportunities like we discussed previously,
Right.
like federal work study. Those are 100% subsidized by the 100% by the Department of Education. So you get 20 hours a week and it doesn't come out of the program's coffers. I'll be happy to sit down and talk to you about that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we should definitely do that. No, I mean, this is all so very valuable and extremely complicated.
Right.
It's sort of like your Virgil taking somebody through the different levels of hell, trying to figure stuff out, right?
Exactly. But they're once you get through those levels of hell, it's like, Shangri-La, you know what I mean? It's really, you get help these companies get help that they really need, and it doesn't cost them anything, or it's very, very reduced rates.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, this is making me think of something else. So, for everybody who doesn't know, I've taught entrepreneurship in the past, and one of the things I would talk about is that for stuff that it really should be done by a professional, that's a good place to put your money because they have knowledge that is of stuff that's very opaque. It's very hard to understand all these programs, or like if you're an accountant, all the stuff that goes into that, or really anything that involves a professional who lives and breathes this sort of stuff. So
Right.
having somebody who could be maybe not your Virgil, but you're like a Sherpa to help you
Right, exactly.
navigate all this stuff
I'll be your
is
Sherpa. I'll be your
yeah.
Sherpa.
It's really worth the investment, I think.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Okay, a couple more things I have here. So thank you to Travis. I really appreciate this opportunity. I really, small businesses stick together, you know what I mean? So I also like to thank the Center for Entrepreneurship. I don't know if JJ made it on, but make sure you express my gratitude and utmost respect and congratulations on his retirement. Also pass my gratitude to Mr. Scott Taylor, and thank you everybody for being here. And then here's my contact information. This QR code, and I'll put the link it's for my link tree, and it's got I'll put this in the comments. The link tree has the presentation on it. It's got our flyer. It's got my website, my email, my phone number. So that's the best way to reach me. I'll go ahead and drop that now. And then let's see. And then one thing I would also appreciate, I've worked with individual businesses so far, but I haven't done one of these. So I'm always looking to improve. So if you can let me know how I did on this quick anonymous form, just let me know any question you had, anything that any areas you'd like more information on in future presentations. If you'd like to see a presentation on each of the benefits in detail, I can do that too. I can collaborate with Travis to do that as well. So yeah, and I think that concludes my presentation.